A struggling mother's fate-changing encounter in the snow. The winter night was unforgiving. Snow swirled violently through the deserted streets, the howling wind biting into Emma's skin as she pulled her threadbare coat tightly around her. Her weary feet crunched through the fresh snow, her thoughts fixated on getting home to her 2 children, who were waiting in their tiny apartment, hungry and anxious for her return. The diner shift had been grueling, as always, but this storm was something else. The streets, normally bustling with people heading home, were eerily silent, an unnatural stillness blanketing the town under layers of white. Then, just as she turned a corner, a sound barely audible over the wind reached her ears, a weak, desperate cry. Emma froze. The cry came again, fragile and wavering, from a narrow alleyway up ahead. Heart pounding, she trudged toward the sound, pushing past the drifts of snow. There, curled up against the icy brick wall, was a small boy, no older than 8, his clothes soaked through, his face pale. His lips quivered as he clutched his knees to his chest. "Hey, sweetheart," Emma crouched down, trying to keep her voice calm. "Are you all right?" The boy's glassy eyes flickered toward her, filled with fear and confusion. I can't find my dad," he stammered, his voice barely louder than the wind. "I'm lost." Emma's motherly instincts kicked in immediately. Without hesitation, she peeled off her scarf and wrapped it around the boy, then scooped him into her arms. "We need to get you somewhere warm," she whispered, feeling the faint, erratic thump of his heartbeat against her chest. With each step, the cold bit deeper into her bones, but Emma pushed forward. Finally, she spotted the warm glow of the community center. It was one of the few places in town that stayed open as an emergency shelter during storms. She burst through the doors, a rush of warmth washing over her as she carried the shivering child inside. Volunteers rushed over, wrapping the boy in blankets and offering him a steaming cup of hot cocoa. Emma knelt beside him, rubbing his hands gently to help restore feeling. "What's your name, honey?" she asked softly. "Oliver," he whispered, still trembling. "All right, Oliver," she said with a reassuring smile. "We're going to find your dad. Do you remember where you live?" Oliver's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know where I am. My dad was driving, but the snow got too heavy, and then, I don't know." Emma's heart clenched. Just as she was about to signal for one of the volunteers to call the authorities, a voice from across the room made her freeze. "Oliver." A well-dressed man rushed forward, his face lined with worry and relief. Emma instinctively put a protective arm around Oliver, but the boy's face lit up with recognition. "Dad!" Oliver cried, scrambling out of his seat. The man dropped to his knees and pulled his son into his arms, his hands trembling as he clutched the boy close. "I've been looking everywhere for you," he murmured. Emma exhaled, a wave of relief washing over her. But then, the man turned his gaze to her. "Thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You saved my son." Emma brushed a strand of damp hair from her forehead, suddenly feeling self-conscious. I just did what anyone would do." The man stepped closer, his sharp features coming into clearer focus. "I'm Adam Kingsley." Emma's stomach twisted. Kingsley? The name was familiar. The Kingsleys were one of the wealthiest families in the region, owners of a sprawling business empire. She had read about them in the paper, seen their charity events on TV. Adam studied her for a moment before reaching into his coat pocket. "Please," he said, offering her a business card. "If there's anything I can do to repay you." Emma hesitated. Her pride warred with the reality of her situation. Bills were piling up. Her children needed more than she could provide. Finally, she accepted the card. The next morning, Emma stood in front of a sleek office building, gripping the business card tightly. She had dialed the number in a moment of weakness, and now she was here, questioning if she had made the right decision. Inside, Adam Kingsley greeted her warmly, his usual composed demeanor tinged with gratitude. After a few moments of small talk, he got straight to the point. "I want to help you," he said simply. "Not as charity, but because I owe you. You saved my son." Emma shifted uncomfortably. "I wasn't expecting anything. I just wanted him to be safe." Adam smiled faintly. "And that's exactly why I want to offer you a job. A real opportunity." "A job?" Emma's mind reeled. She had expected a token gesture, perhaps a financial gift, a short-lived act of gratitude. But this? A chance to work at Kingsley Enterprises, a company worlds away from the greasy diner where she had spent years scraping by? She hesitated, glancing at the polished floors, the pristine office space. "I don't belong here." Adam met her gaze, his expression unreadable. "Why not?" "Because she was a struggling single mother. Because she didn't wear designer coats or drive expensive cars. Because people like him weren't supposed to help people like her." But then, she thought of Oliver's tiny, frozen frame in the snow. The desperation in his voice. She had stepped up when no one else had. Maybe, just maybe, she deserved this chance. Weeks passed, and Emma found herself settling into her new job. She worked hard, determined to prove that she belonged. And surprisingly, Adam wasn't just the cold, calculating businessman the media portrayed him to be. He was kind. Considerate. He noticed things, like the way she never took more than a few minutes for lunch, or how she always made sure to leave early enough to pick up her children. As time went on, an unexpected friendship formed. Then something more. A connection neither of them had anticipated. But their worlds were still vastly different. And some secrets had yet to be revealed. What started as an act of kindness had set into motion a story neither of them could have predicted. And for Emma, this was only the beginning.